Shalom and blessings. I'm Michael Walker with Natzarim Yahshua Family Fellowship, and today we're going to talk about Tzitzits or tassels. So here we go. Outline. Today we're going to talk about the Torah command, what are Tzitzits, the history of the Tzitzit, who is to wear them, is it a sin not to wear them, the SIMCHA or the joy and latitude that we have with our Tzitzits, examples of Tzitzits, and other teachings. In Numbers 15, 38 through 41, we read, And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them to make tzitzit on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and to put a blue cord in the tzitzit of the corners. And it shall be to you for a tzitzit, and you shall see it, and shall remember all the commands of Yahweh, and shall do them, and not search after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you went whoring, so that you remember and shall do all my commandments, and be set apart unto your Elohim. I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mithraim to be your Elohim. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Deuteronomy 22, verse 12, we read, Make tassels on the four corners of your garment with which you cover yourself. People ask, what are tzitzits? Simply put, they're a tassel. If you think of a graduation cap, the tassel that's on it, tzitzits are similar to that. From a historical and biblical perspective, Tom Bradford of Seed of Abraham Ministries out of Florida has a teaching on this, and it's in Numbers lesson 19, chapter 15 on his website. And it says, in the most ancient era of the Hebrew culture, tzitzits more or less literally meant a lock of hair. Indeed, a tzitzit resembles a lock of hair. And in modern terms, it looks much like what we would call a tassel. But of course, in ancient times, tassels began as decorative locks of hair. As with so many of these sorts of things we find in the Torah, the concept of tzitzit was not an entirely new invention, as much as it was an evolution and transformation of something that already existed. Ancient etchings and pictographs from various regions in Asia show that wearing of tassels on the garments was fairly widespread. Though, as far as anyone knows, the Hebrew purpose for the tassels, the tzitzit, was unique. So what are they? They're a tassel of threads containing at least one blue thread or one blue cord. What are they for? They're a visual reminder so that when we see them, we remember Yahweh's commandments. Historical biblical references are in 1 Samuel chapter 24, verses 1 through 6, Matthew 9, 20 through 22, Luke 8, 43 through 44, Matthew 14, 34 through 36, Mark 6, 56, and Matthew 23, 1 through 8. We're going to see exactly what the tzitzits represent and the power of the tzitzit. In 1 Samuel 24, verses 1 through 6, we read, And it came to be when Shaul had returned from pursuing the Philistines, that it was reported to him, saying, See, David is in the wilderness of En-Gadi. So Shaul took 3,000 chosen men from all of Israel and went to seek David and his men on the rocks of the wild goats. And he came to the sheepfolds on the way, and there was a cave. And Shaul went in to relieve himself. Now David and his men were sitting in the sides of the cave. And the men of David said to him, See, the day of which Yahweh said to you, See, I am giving your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it seems good to you. And David arose and gently cut off a corner of Shaul's robe. And it came to be afterward that the heart of David struck him, because he had cut the robe of Shaul. So he said to his men, Far be it from me by Yahweh that I should do this matter to my master, anointed of Yahweh, to stretch out my hand against him, for he is the anointed of Yahweh. Typically on the corner of the robes is where the tzitzit are located. And this is a sign of power, especially when the king wore them in the kingly garments. And to cut off that corner, it was really significant for David to do that. In Matthew 9, 20 through 22, we see and read, And see, a woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years came from behind and touched the tzitzit of his garment. Speaking of Yeshua, and continuing, for she said to herself, but if I only touch his garment, I shall be healed. But Yeshua turned, and when he saw her, he said, take courage, daughter. Your belief has healed you. And the woman was healed from that hour. In Luke 8:43 through 48, the same account, and a woman having the flow of blood for 12 years, who having spent all of her livelihood on physicians, was unable to be healed by any, came from behind and touched the tzitzit of his garment. And immediately her flow of blood stopped. And Yeshua said, who touched me? And when all denied it, Kepha and those with him said, Master, the crowds throng you and press upon you, and you say, who touched me? But Yeshua said, somebody did touch me, for I knew power went out of me. And the woman, seeing that she was not hidden, came trembling and falling down before him. She declared to him in the presence of all the people why she had touched him, and how she healed immediately. And he said to her, take courage, daughter, your belief has healed you. Go in peace. Matthew 14, verses 34 through 36, we read, and having passed over, they came to the land of Gennesar. And when the men of that place recognized him, they sent out into all that surrounding country and brought to him all who were sick and begged him to let them only touch the tzitzit of his garment. As many as touched it were completely healed. In Mark 6:56, and wherever he went, into the villages or cities or the country, there were laying sick in the marketplaces and begged him to let them touch if only the tzitzit of his garment. And as many as touched him were healed. In Matthew 23, verses 1 through 8, we read, then Yeshua spoke to the crowds and his taught ones, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit on the seat of Moshe. Therefore, whatever they say to you to guard, guard and do. But do not do according to their works, for they say and do not do. For they bind heavy burdens, hard to bear, and lay them on men's shoulders. But with their finger they do not wish to move them. And they do all of their works to be seen by men, and they make their tefillin wide, and lengthen the tzitzit of their garment, and they love the best place at the feast, and the best seats in the congregations, and in the greetings in the marketplaces, and to be called by men, Rabbi, Rabbi. But you do not be called Rabbi, for one is your teacher, the Messiah, and you are all brothers. Who is to wear the tzitzit? Well, when we look back at what the Torah said, it was speaking to the children of Israel, which means all 12 tribes. This does include men, women, and children, and contrary to popular Messianic and rabbinic teachings that isolate the command to only men, the command is for the children of Israel, which includes all those that are grafted in, men and women alike. Here's how we know this, and here's how I'll demonstrate and show what the Torah says. Children of Israel applications. We see that in the dietary instructions from Leviticus 11, verses 1 through 2, and Yahweh spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying to them, speak to the children of Israel, saying, these are the living creatures which you do eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. And in reference to the Moedim in Leviticus 23, and Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, the appointed times of Yahweh, which you are to proclaim as set-apart gatherings, my appointed times are these. So in these two instances, we see the same phrase, speak to the children of Israel. And we know that this applies to all of the tribes, all the people of the tribes. It's the entire children of Israel, men, women, children. The same application is used in reference to the tzitzit. So who is to wear them? Other than children of Israel applications, we find in Leviticus 18, 7, 24, 23, 27, and Exodus 30, Exodus 6, 14, and 25, Numbers 35, 15, 5, Joshua 20, Judges 20. I think you're starting to get the picture with it. When it speaks to the children of Israel, it's meaning all the children of Israel. If there are specific instructions, say for the Levitical priesthood or for women, it is identified at that time at the beginning of that instruction, and it says, you know, that these commands are for women or for the priesthood. So speaking to the children of Israel, that's a widespread thing, and we see it throughout the scriptures consistently. Is it a sin not to wear the tzitzit? Well, what's defined as sin? Is breaking a commandment, according to 1 John 3:4, right? So, are we, the children of Israel, commanded in Numbers 15 to wear the tzitzit? Yes, we read that in Numbers 15. So yes, it is a sin not to wear them, because if we don't, then we are breaking a commandment, which is the very definition of sin. Latitude. Yahweh is so gracious and has given us so much latitude. Simple obedience to the command, because the command is very vague from a physical application. It says that we are to wear them on the corners of our garments, and they are to contain a blue thread. That's it. That's the command. Very simple, very, very easy to enact. In rabbinic traditions, there are specific tzitzits that are only white in color, that don't have the blue thread. And this is according to some tradition about a special sea snail that was used in the ancient times to get the blue, and now we don't know what that blue is. But that's not what the command says in the Torah. The Torah says to wear the tzitzits, and they must have a blue thread. Also, rabbinic traditions teach in specific ways to tie the knots, that each knot represents one of the commandments, and there's 613 commandments in the Torah. That's not what the Torah command says in Numbers. It just says to wear them. So if we choose to do these things, tie them in specific ways or specific colors, that's on us. We have the latitude. It's when we are elevating it to say that this is the only way that we are to do this, and we are commanded to do it this way, then that is kind of breaking the Torah, because then you're adding to the word. Remember the Torah, always. We always want to defer to that, because Yeshua, when he was here, taught from the Torah, and so we are to learn from the Torah and apply it in our daily lives. When are we to wear the tzitzit? This is a $1 million question, and that is not often addressed, at least not in any of the studies that I have found. The command is to attach the tzitzit to the corners of our garments. So whenever you have your garments on, you should also have your tzitzits on. So when do you wear yours? Only to Shabbat service? Only on Shabbat? Every day? Or all day? For me personally, I wear my tzitzit every day. The only time I do not wear them is when I'm going to bed and asleep, and that's about the only time that I don't have my tzitzit on. It tells us that we're to wear them on the four corners of our garments, and I do my absolute best to try to wear them on the four corners of my garments as much as possible. Latitude and SIMCHA. See, my tzitzits, the first set I had my wife tie for me, and I had her tie them in a specific sequence, a representation for the Hebrew numbers for the letters of Yahweh, Yud He Vav He. And those are letters number 10565. This was my own personal choice, and I used blue and white, and I alternated the blue and the white, and the blue was tied in 10565, and the white was tied in 20-piece increments. That was my own personal tzitzit. Now I have a bunch of different colors of tzitzits, and I just make sure to have them blue cord in it. These are my tzitzits, and they're to remind me to keep his commands. So when I see them, I remember that I am one of his set-apart people, and I need to be accountable to that when I'm out and about. I'm representing our king. So when I'm representing the king, I better be making sure that I'm doing everything right according to his commands. It should bring you a lot of joy when you discover your tzitzit and you learn that you can mix and match colors, and the only specific thing in there is that you have to have one blue thread. You can make them as long or as short as you want. That's totally up to you. There was no specification given in the length. It's just we have to have them. I know some people that work in like first responder type industries, they have short tzitzits because they don't want them to be caught up in anything if they're on an accident scene, say they're a firefighter, or EMTs that are wearing them. They don't want to have long tzitzits because a patient can grab them and try to manipulate them. So there's some latitude here. The most important aspect is that we're wearing the tzitzit. Have fun creating them. this should bring you so much joy. This is one of the simplest commands that we can keep for Yahweh, and this shows that we are set apart, and He gave us the latitude to be creative, knowing that we're all individuals and everybody's going to have a different way to wear the tzitzit. And we can use any and every color under the sun, so long as it contains at least one blue cord. The point of wearing the tzitzit is just a visual reminder for us to remember His commandments. That's it. Examples of tzitzits are pictured. You have a talit, which is a traditional prayer cloth. Talit katan, which is fits over your neck, and you see the tzitzits on the four corners there. I wear an offshoot of the talit katan. I put some grommets in my t-shirts and put my tzitzits through there so that they're evenly spaced, and it's easier for me to deal with them. People also wear the talit gadol, which is the big talit that they wear over their entire body. Belt loop version, I also wear that when I'm wearing jeans and I'm out and about. I've got my paracord that have the blue cord in them. There's some other examples that things that fit over your belt. There's all kinds of different things out there. It's totally up to you how you want to apply it. It's just you got to remember to do it. And once you start doing it, you'll start noticing when you're out and about, and you'll see other people that have their tzitzits, and it'll bring a smile to your face to know that, hey, you know what? I'm really not alone in this. There's a bunch of people out there that are truly trying to follow the way of Yahweh, and so thankful and humbled by Yeshua's sacrifice. You know, we already looked at the importance of the tzitzit and how powerful they can be, especially with Yeshua as our high priest, the healing power that was within them. My goodness, it just makes sense that we should have the tzitzits on. There are other teachings out there. As I mentioned, Seed of Abraham Ministries of Tom Bradford has an excellent teaching. 119 Ministries has a couple of teachings on their website. One is under the Berean Bridges tzitzit, and then a separate training is Should Women Wear Tzitzit? Corner Fringe Ministries and Founded in Truth Ministries also have teachings out there on the tzitzit.